All right, the recording is started. So good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This should be a great, insightful, and hopefully educational experience. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Len Thompson. I'm the community manager for the CA Workload Automation community. Since most of you are listening to this webcast via the WebEx broadcast, and you're not actually on the phone line, just want to let you know that if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box in the lower right of the screen. If you don't see that screen right now, in the upper right, there's a question mark icon, and you can go ahead and click that, and the box will open for you. And with that, I'm going to hand you off to Rajesh. So take it away, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Len. Hi, good morning, good evening. I'm Rajesh, and I'll be your presenter for this session. We will be discussing the new features that are released as part of 11.3.6 SP6. So this is the legal statement. So this is going to be our agenda for this session. We will discuss about new job types that have been added in this particular release. Then we will look at SCP and FTP Job Type Enhancements. There is a change with respect to the way the post-start job behaves now. We will discuss about that. There has been a request for adding global variable supports for more number of attributes. So we will see what all new attributes have been given global variable support. Then the DB trigger job type enhancements, we have added support for few new databases, Postgres and Teradata. There have been a couple of enhancements with respect to the JMS publish and subscribe jobs. So we will look at the new attributes added as part of these jobs. Then we have added support for Kerberized Sybase. So this will remove away the need to authenticate with the database using passwords. So we will look into that feature as to what kind of modifications and what kind of support infrastructure has been built in the product. And then we will also look at the platforms and databases support added with this particular release. And finally, we will look at the third-party component upgrades and a couple of upgrade considerations that one has to be aware of when coming to 11.3.6 SP6 from older release. So of the new job types that we have introduced, Informatica job type is one. So now users can schedule workflows in the Informatica Power Center. The supported operations are running a job, cancelling a job, and then you can also restart the job and fetch the job logs. So this is the UI screen for the Informatica job type. So if you can see the top half, these are all the from under the primary section. These are all the common attributes. The attributes that are specific to Informatica are listed in the lower half. The only mandatory attributes for Informatica are folder name and workflow name. So this folder name essentially contains the location where the workflows are available on the Informatica Power Center, and workflow name under what particular workflow one is interested to start needs to be specified against a workflow name. Then the first going attribute by attribute, we have Informatica target. So this essentially contains the Informatica Power Center information that the agent needs to connect to for running a job. Then there is a repository name which will contain all the folder names. Then Informatica user. So this is the user with which the agent will connect to the Informatica Power Center. If this user is not specified, then the one that is defined in the agent properties will be picked up and established a connection with the Informatica Power Center. Then If you can see against the workflow name, there is a binocular icon. This actually allows you to connect to the Power Center of Informatica and get all the workflows that are available under a specified folder name. We will look at the screen for that in the next slide. Then there is a workflow instance. So you can create multiple workflow instances when defining a workflow. So this is what it pertains to. Task name. So each workflow can have multiple task names. So you can specify as to what task name you want the job to start from. So again, there is a binocular icon which will help you to find out all the task names given a workflow name. Then we have parameter file. So this file is pointed to a path on the Informatica Power Center machine, which will contain couple of variables which will help Informatica to resolve symbolic names to values. Then we have pass when successful. So the values that it takes is 0 and 1. So 0 means we're essentially asking Informatica to give the status of the workflow, and 1 means we are asking agent to infer the status of the workflow. So the way it happens in Informatica is even if a particular task under a workflow fails, the workflow's final status can still be success. So 0 implies take the status as given by Informatica, and 1 implies agent will infer based on the successful execution of all the tasks under the workflow. So only if all the tasks under a workflow are successful do we have the final state of the job as success, when pass when successful is set to 1. So this is the search workflow functionality that I was talking about in the previous slide. So this will help you to get all the workflows that are defined against a particular folder from the Informatica Power Center. So you can see all the search results. You have workflow name and the workflow ID and workflow status and the number of instances that are configured against the workflow name. So this is another search which is specific to the task. So given a workflow, you can find out all the task names that are listed under a particular workflow. So essentially, we are actually connecting to the Informatica Power Center and getting all the particular task names against a particular workflow. So user can simply leave a workflow and get all the task names and then choose which one he wants for the job to be defined with. So in QuickView, one can look at the workflow status. You can see that the workflow status for the workflow name WF_EMP. You will see this is the information as returned by the Informatica Power Center. So we have workflow ID, the run ID, the final workflow status, and the tasks that are available under the particular workflow. So essentially, all the information that is available on the Power Center can be retrieved and displayed from the UI in QuickView. This is the workflow run details in QuickView. So this is actually giving the runtime information of the particular workflow. So you can see given a workflow, what tasks are available under it, what is the task type, like session task is the one listed. Then you also have the task status followed by task start time, end time, and runtime. So this essentially is giving the actual runtime information of a workflow. So one thing which was not covered as part of the screens was the ability to fetch the task-related logs. So you can now fetch the logs from both UI as well as from AutoSys log. We have introduced a new option called capital L, which will help in retrieving either the task log or in case the task name is not provided, it will list all the logs that are available as part of the workflow. So there is a new option added against AutoSys log to support the fetching of the logs for the task or workflow if task name is not provided. So moving on, another job type that we have added is MSSQL Server Agent job type. And again, the operations that it supports are similar to the Informatica. You can run the job and cancel it as well, which are the common for any job type. Besides that, you can also restart the job from a specific step name. So in case the step name is not provided, then the entire job stream will be started from the beginning, inclusive of all the step names. Again, you can fetch the job log. You can get all the logs, inclusive of all the step names. And in case you specify a step name, then only the logs relevant to the particular step name will be retrieved and displayed. So this operation is again supported from both UI and client, which is AutoSys log. So this is how these are the parameters that are available for the definition of SQL Server Agent job type. So you can, the only mandatory attribute for SQL Server job type is job details. So the way a job is defined on the SQL Server is you can either have it by the job name or by the job identification number. So either one of them has to be specified as they are mutually exclusive. The target DB reflects the DB that you want the agent to connect to execute the SQL Server jobs. MSSQL server name, this reflects the server name that the agent needs to connect to execute the job. Again, step name, a job can have n number of step names. So you can specify exactly the step name that you want the job to be defined with, so that when you start the job, the execution starts from the specified step name. Username, again, username needs to be looked at in conjunction with the domain. So in case only the username is specified and no domain value is specified, then it will be treated as a SQL Server authentication using the native database authentication mechanism. In case the domain name is specified and username is as well specified, then the domain will be treated as Windows domain authentication, and the specific domain authentication mechanism will be employed to authenticate the user. So again, like Informatica, you can search the jobs from the UI and then select instead of manually typing this. So there are various filter options which will allow you to filter the job names by the job type, like whether it is a command prompt job or ActiveX control job or a SQL scripting job. So various filter options are available from the UI, which will help you to narrow down the jobs that are of interest. Again, like we had the feature of searching a workflow, searching a task within a workflow. We also have similar functionality for MSSQL Server Agent Job Type. Given a job, you can find out what all step names or step IDs are part of that, and you can choose the one accordingly for the job definition. So these are the job details for the SQL Server Agent job in QuickView. So you can see that this is a static information or the runtime information. Essentially, it contains what is the job ID for the job, what is the job name, and other details that are of interest from the SQL Server standpoint. And this is the job status as displayed in the QuickView. You can see the actual execution status of the job, what is the last run date, last run time, and what is the current execution status, and what is the current retry attempt, and execution step. All that information which is of relevance for a job in the SQL agent are displayed over here. There is also a feature of checking the job history in QuickView. So you can actually select a job and then find out its job history from the SQL agent side. So you can you have a criteria like what is the amount of time in the past that you want to look at the history of a given job defined at the SQL server side. So you can also have information retrieved for a particular step as seen in the retrieve step specific history. So this is the information from the new job types that we have added, Informatica and SQL Server. So both of these jobs support restarting it from a specific step in case a particular step in a workflow or a job has failed. So restart job is the event that is supported for both MSSQL and Informatica. And one more thing is that for the customers who have been already using SQL Server Agent or Informatica job types earlier as part of AutoSys using agent provided CLIs for Informatica and MSSQL Server can now utilize a utility called Agent CLI to Job Converter. This is located under AutoSys and then under AutoSys utils, and inside that this utility by the name Agent CLI to Job Converter. So essentially it helps you to convert all the earlier command jobs which were using Informatica and SQL Server CLI commands to a proper Informatica or SQL Server job definition. It will also help you to import all the users that are defined as part of those command jobs. So that is a utility available under DBOBJ utils directory, which can be used to convert command jobs to proper AutoSys SQL Server and Informatica jobs. Another set of enhancements that we made are for FTP and FTP job type. So for FTP job type, we have added a new attribute called external user. So this essentially allows a job to be run as a separate user than the agent user. And for FTP job type, besides this ability to run a job as an external user, We have also provided support for multi-factor authentication. So you can now talk to a STP or FTP server using more than one type of authentication. So earlier it was only password-based authentication. Now we have also provided support for private key and passphrase. So a user can specify a mix of both. He can either give password, key file passphrase, or key file passphrase, or password. So all the possible combinations that are valid can now be provided as part of this job for authentication. So to accommodate more than one authentication to be supported for a given user, we had to modify Auto6 secure utility. Earlier it was allowing only one type of credential against a user. So this has been now modified to allow more than one type of credentials to be specified against the user. So now you can give password for the user, and you can as well provide private key for the same user. A new option, command line option has been introduced, which is -D. So this will help you to delete the user from the specific category. You can delete a user from the passwords, or you can delete the user from the key file category. So coming to the attributes that are added for these job types, taking the secure copy first, we have introduced a attribute called the transfer type. So this essentially allows one to specify as to what kind of transfer has to be made. Should it be binary or ASCII? So earlier, all the transfers for the FTP job type used to be binary. Now we have provided an option for ASCII transfers as well. The default, however, would be binary. A new option called Create Remote Directory has been introduced. So this will allow you to create the path. Say you are actually trying to upload a file from your local agent machine to a remote SFTP server, and then the path, you have specified a path under remote directory which currently does not exist. So you have now the flexibility of specifying that you want to create the directory on the fly and then do the according upload operation. So when you check this create remote directory, and in case the directory that is specified against the remote directory is not existing, then the agent will take care of creating the directory and then completing the required file operation. Again, this run as user, as I mentioned, this allows the job to be run as a specific user, not as the default agent user. You can specify a different user, a user which has specific privileges to specific parts of the file system, and in case you wanted to do file operations using that particular user, then you can specify that particular user against the run as user, and the required operation will be done as per that user. So you can see that file operation delete. So there are two additional attributes that are added. One is delete source file and delete source directory. So this will help you to actually delete the source file after a required upload or download operation is complete. And delete source directory will delete the directory once the upload or download is complete. Now there is one caveat here. Delete source directory would not be effective unless the directory is empty. So for the delete source directory to work successfully, it has to be used in conjunction with the delete source file. There is one more attribute called rename source file. So this will allow the user to rename the source file. after the required upload or download operation is complete. We have already covered this run as user as part of SCP, and it is the same for FTP as well. Allows the agent to run the job as this particular user. So this user will take the form of user@host, and this user@host has to be defined using autosys secure, so that the appropriate credentials are passed to the agent. That concludes the enhancements that we made for STP and SFTP job type. So coming to post start job behavior, we have made a slight enhancements to the way the machines are evaluated. So usually the earlier behavior was when you define a virtual machine and then you have two real machines defined against it, and they have non-zero factors. If you schedule a job, if you do a post start job to this particular virtual machine, then whichever machine was available on the random, it would have picked up and scheduled the job. So the request was to actually make the job run on a machine which has enough resources than choosing randomly. So that is where this enhancement has come from. So now what we have done is we have introduced a configuration parameter on Unix which goes by the name use machine method and post start job. So what essentially we are saying is whatever machine method value has been specified by the user, be it CPUmon or PMstat or rstat, depending on the type of the agent as well as flavor of the operating system, that particular method will be employed, and only the best machine having enough cycles will be chosen, and then the job will be pushed to that particular machine. So on Windows, this is the checkbox called machine method and force starts under scheduler panel. We have introduced, and if this is it is by default selected on both Unix and Windows. In case if the user does not want to have the this particular behavior, he can uncheck here, and then that should be effective for the scheduler. This global variable support for additional attributes. There has been a request for quite some time to enhance the purview of the global variables for the attributes. So in this particular release, we have chosen the following attributes for the global variable support. So we have destination name, then FTP server name, and initial context factory, which is from the JMS publish and subscribe job type. Likewise, we have SAP recipients, notification email address, notification message. So this is a list of attributes that we have provided the support for global variables. For the DB trigger job type enhancement, besides the already available databases in the combo box, we have now provided support for two newer databases for the trigger support on insert, update, and delete operations against the tables. The new databases that are supported are Teradata and PostgreSQL. Coming to the JMS enhancements, we have now added support for the correlation ID. So essentially what it means is you can now consume a message from the queue based on the correlation ID. So every message that is posted to a queue has a correlation ID, and the subscriber specifies this correlation ID so that it can retrieve the correct message that has been posted by the publisher. So there are two ways of specifying this correlation ID. One is you can rely completely on the agent to generate a correlation ID. Say I have a publisher and a subscriber. In the publisher, I am not specifying any correlation ID. In that case, the agent itself takes care of generating the correlation ID, and then the subscriber, for it to actually pull the correct message from the queue, it will have to specify the job name of the publisher. So that way, the proper message is retrieved for the request that has been posted by the publisher. And there is another method wherein you can specify the literal directly. So the publisher will choose a correlation ID like some literal text and put it as part of the job definition. And the subscriber will also specify the same correlation ID. And when the publisher job goes to success, it will put this particular message with this correlation ID into the queue, JNDI queue. And the subscriber, when it is run, it looks into the queue for this particular correlation ID and fetches the messages from the queue. So that is the correlation ID pattern, and that's where this correlation ID attribute support has come. And there is another attribute that has been added, and that is called destination name. Sorry, not the destination name, destination user name, which is the last but one. So the destination user name takes the form of user@host. Essentially, it helps in accessing the queues which are protected and private. So unless the credentials are available, one cannot read the messages from those queues. So this is for those type of queues, this particular attribute comes in handy. So destination name has been improvised a bit, wherein now you can specify a reply to attribute as part of that. So essentially, this falls under the message ID pattern. So what happens is we have a publisher, and publisher has posted a message to a queue, but the publisher can as well specify a destination name that he is interested to consume the messages from. So in that case, what the publisher does is he will push a message to the queue, and then he will also specify that this is my JNDA queue name, and this is where I am expecting the messages to be posted. So that is what is reply to attribute contributes to. You can specify a different queue name than the queue name that you are posting a message to. And so this is about reply to. Correlation ID, as I mentioned, it is the same, and it is used for both publish and subscriber jobs. The other feature that we have in this particular release is the support for Kerberized Sybase. So essentially, we did away with the need to have passwords in the config file as well as in the database. If the Sybase is configured with the Kerberos, then one can now authenticate from Autosys using tickets provided by Kerberos to authenticate with the database. So there are a couple of prerequisites that one has to have for this particular configuration to work. One is that you need to have the Kerberos client installed on the machine Autosys or Workload Automation AE is installed. And this client has to be configured with the KDC, and this is the same KDC where Sybase is as well configured with. And for the product to actually make connections with the Kerberized Sybase, one has to have pre-authenticated sessions. That is for root as well as Autosys user. Now, if you are using the installer to lay down the schema, then obviously installer expects it to be started with root. In that case, the root OS user has to be mapped with the sys user, which is SA user on Sybase, so that the schema creation and all happens flawlessly. And after the schema is laid out and the product is installed, for the services to be up and running, it requires a pre-authenticated session for Autosys user, so that a service that is started as Autosys will be able to connect to a user on the database by the name Autosys. So if you are starting it as Autosys, then it will by default go and connect to a user by the name Autosys on Sybase. So all the scripts which are interfacing with the database, like create aedb.pl, refresh aedb.pl, reindex db.pl, autobcp syb.pl, all of these are modified so that they can now work with Kerberos. So user will now be provided an option as to whether he wants to authenticate himself to the database using a password or using Kerberos tickets. So that option dictates whether the subsequent steps will require the user to enter the password or not. So accordingly, Java applications like ERU, compliance app, and web services are modified so that they now work without the need for the password. We have also introduced a new script called switch DB access mode. So this essentially helps the user to switch the authentication mode from password to Kerberos and vice versa. Installer changes have been made to accommodate Sybase principal name. So essentially, you can have the Sybase server registered with the KDC using a different name than what it is running on the system. So in that case, Sybase principal name has to be provided for the product to successfully connect and authenticate itself to the database. So the way one configures the product with Kerberos is to start the installation and then go into the custom mode, and inside the database type there is a checkbox provided which is for external authentication. So one has to click this, which will actually take him to this screen where you can see that we have introduced this new option called service principal. So in case the Sybase service is running with the same name and I mean with the name which is the same on both the OS as well as the way it is registered with Kerberos, then this field becomes optional. It is not required anymore. But in case it is registered against Kerberos with a different name and it is running as a different with a different name on the machine, then this principle becomes important. One has to specify here the actual name that this Sybase server is registered with Kerberos. So this has to be specified correctly in case the names are different. Otherwise, the connection establishment will not work. And the subsequent panels like asking the SA users and AutoSys users are no longer present. So we have done away with the particular installation panel. Third-party component upgrade and consideration. So there is one significant change that has come. EEM 12.5.1 CR05 is part of 1136 SP6, and it starts shipping 64-bit iGateway. 32-bit iGateway is no longer supported, and on Windows, a direct upgrade from 32 to 64-bit is not supported. So the upgrade sequence is specified here as to how one has to perform the upgrade in case both AutoSys and EEM server are residing on the same machine. So essentially what we wanted to do is we wanted to remove the EEM server first. So for the EEM server to remove, we'll have to start with the command sponsor first, because command sponsor is a consumer of iGateway. So first uninstall the command sponsor and then uninstall the EEM server. In case DSM is also present on the machine, then it also consumes iGateway. So you will have to uninstall the DSM as well. So essentially everything that is consuming iGateway has to be removed. After which you'll also have to take a backup of your EEM policies, and procedure to do that is mentioned in the doc site. The link for the same is mentioned below. So after this uninstallation is done, then you can start the C3 upgrade, which has this EEM server, and you can select the EEM server against the checkbox, and it will take care of installing the EEM server. And after that, we'll have to start the upgrade of AutoSys, and command sponsor can be installed as well. So this is the sequence of steps one has to follow on Windows when both AutoSys and EEM are on the same machine. On Unix, it is automatically taken care of. EEM supports direct upgrade from 32 to 64-bit iGateway. Hence, this elaborate scheme of things involving manual operations are not required on Unix. So coming to support for platforms and databases, 11.3.6 SP6 is certified with AX 7.2. Again, this is engine only. AX anyways is not supported from WCC. Then we have also certified MSSQL servers always on feature with AE and WCC as well. Support for Oracle 12c container is also added as part of SP6, both from engine and UI. So these are the third-party components that have been upgraded in this release. So as mentioned in the previous slide, EEM is upgraded to 12.51 CR05. CAPKI is 5.2.0 for all platforms, except for HPIA and HPUX, where we still use 5.1.0 because the CAPKI has stopped the support for HPUX PA risk. Tomcat, again 8.5.11 for all platforms except for HP, where we still continue using 7.0.70. The reason being the JRE version that is available on HP, and latest versions of Tomcat requires latest versions of JRE, which are not supported on PA risk. Tanuki is updated to 3.5.30 for all platforms. So JRE is on AX it is 8.0.0.400 and on HPUX it is 1.6.0_32. So this is the older version compared to the other JREs. We are constrained by the support for PA risk. That's the reason we have the PA risk JRE version little bit older compared to the other platforms. Linux is at 1.8.0.121 and Solaris 32-bit for both Spark and x86 is 1.7.0.131 and for 64-bit it is 1.8.0.121 and Windows again it is 1.8.0.121. Okay, with that I completed the material that I had towards the 11.3.6 SP6 presentation. If you have any questions, please unmute your lines. Okay, I have a question from the chat from Dan Perkins. Will any additional operating system lib files be required on Red Hat Enterprise Linux when upgrading EEM from 32-bit to 64-bit? The answer is no. It is a in-place smooth upgrade on Unix, so no additional library files are required. There is another question from Clark Ammons. Will the database support be for Exadata as well, not just Oracle QLC? We have not yet certified the AE on Exadata, so might be planned for future releases. Again, there is one more question. Are there any considerations when upgrading for users of IXP? Can you elaborate a bit on this? We have tested the product, but with IXP pointing to the latest upgraded 11.3.6 SP6, and we have not found any issues that warrant any documentation. So that is the best I can answer on this. Okay, there is one question from Clark Ammons. Going back to global variables, are the ones listed the only ones that will be updated? Yeah, those are the only ones that we have considered for SP6. Perhaps if there are any additional ones that require to be supported, then those can be taken up in the future releases. Okay. There is a question on the material to be available from Marcio Bodani. Yes, I think Len can share this presentation with you guys. Perhaps he can answer this. There is one more question from Clark Ammons. We were also looking to have EBS plugin working. Is that covered to move?
Yeah, just so everybody on the call knows, I'll be, we are recording this session, so I'll be sharing a replay out in the community probably tomorrow morning, and at that time I will also share the presentation. So, and I think that we've answered all the questions. So if we're all done, we can definitely wrap up. Thank you everybody for your time today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks.